Greetings from the great state of Pennsylvania. My name's Brett. Welcome to another episode of Topo Ranger. It is March 7th, 2026. And what are we looking at here? We're looking at footage from Madagascar, drone footage. And the name of this channel is Nissan. The title of the video is Madagascar Drone Footage 4K. The island of Madagascar, unique in so many aspects of its natural history, contains vast areas of little explored limestone. Over 33,000 kilometers of karst have been recorded, all in the island's west. The surface morphology is mainly one of rugged plateau edged by impressive escarpments. As the climate varies from semi-arid in the south, which is where we're going for the cave we're talking about, to monsoonal in the north, the diversity of karst landscapes is considerable. The karst regions are like this: Ankarana, Mahamaro, Ankara, Kalifli, Bermara, and the Mahafaly. Now, the Mahafaly is where we're going to be today. The Bermara is kind of like the main place, I think, for the Tsingy. Tsingy is Tsingy. I was doing a lot of research on that too before I kind of singled in on something else. The Tsingy is a very unique karst landform. It's basically giant spires, giant swords, sharp swords of limestone, just for square mile after square mile, just. And I'm going to do an episode on that, but that I don't know enough about it. I have to do more research. And there's those the baobab trees there. You've probably seen pictures of those, right? So let's just go look at the southern part here, okay? This is the southern end of Madagascar, and here is Mozambique, right? And the spot we're going to be looking at today is on the southwestern part. It's going to be down here as we come in here. Where is that sucker? Here it is. And the name of the cave is Malazamanga Cave, and it is right here. And what does our book here say about the Mahafaly Karst? It says it is the largest karst of all on the island, covering 9,000 square kilometers. It is very dry, with only moderate relief, but it is pitted by large dolines or sinkholes, and does contain the two deepest caves yet explored in the country. This cave has dry passage, but it's mostly, I think it's famous for its underwater stuff. So we're going to be talking about cave diving today, and we're going to be looking at some footage that, quite frankly, is mind-blowing. So go ahead and hit subscribe, ring my bell, follow me on all the platforms, and let's get started. Yeah, again, this is Nasan, Nissan. That's the name of the channel. This drone footage is pretty cool. And they've got waterfalls, mountains. There's no active volcanoes in Madagascar, but there are volcanics. As I said before, tons of karst. That actually almost looks like, didn't that kind of almost look like columnar jointing there? Okay. This is a climate map, and this is broken down into the various types of climate: arid, desert, hot, arid, steppe, temperate, dry, winter. And where we're going to be is right down here in this kind of, I don't know, is it mustard? It's not really mustard. Is that a mustard? Kind of a mustard orange. That's arid, steppe, hot. Okay. And as you can see, the eastern coast of Madagascar is tropical rainforest, right? And it goes on for a long time. The middle part here, where there's volcanics. I did have a map, a geology map. I think I took it off though. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. Let's go ahead and sketch in some detail about the Mahafaly Plateau. It's in southwestern Madagascar, and it is 54 to 38 million year old Eocene limestone plateau characterized by intense karstification, including deep sinkholes, which they call Avens, right? The French were calling these things Avens. And caves. It features a gently sea-inclined thick limestone crust affected by post-Eocene tectonic movements and a significant dike swarm. So you have dikes coming in here. The region is semi-arid, porous landscape with a complex, deep, and shallow aquifer. I'm only going to watch like 2 videos today. Again, I'm trying to keep it short. And they both take place within the aquifer that's underneath this area. Structure: the plateau consists of Eocene carbonate rocks overlying older sedimentary layers slightly inclined towards the sea, features a monoclinal structure. So if a syncline is like this and an anticline is like this, that's a monocline. I think that's what a monocline is. It's basically just, it goes one way, one direction, and there's no, right? So in the case of this region, it's tilted slightly going towards, I think, yeah, it goes towards the, what they're called the Mozambique Channel, which is the ocean, the part of the Indian Ocean in between Madagascar and Mozambique, the African country of Mozambique. Intense karstification in the lower Eocene has resulted in a complex system of caves and large collapsed sinkholes known as Avens, ranging from a few meters to 500 meters in diameter and over 100 meters in depth. That's over 300 feet, so that's pretty deep. Volcanic dikes, the region is traversed by a swarm of nearly 500 parallel dikes, likely Upper Cretaceous in age, ranging from Rhyolitic to ultra-basic or ultra-basic. Ultra-basic? I'm not really sure what that means. Let's find out. That's going to bug me. Let's go on a little detour here real quick. Does it mean you're just really plain? Ultra-basic refers to two distinct concepts in geology, describes igneous rocks with very low silica and rich in iron and magnesium. Okay. So I think that's what we're talking about. So these dikes are very low in silica. They're ultra basic. Hydrogeology. The plateau has a complex dual aquifer system, shallow, under 20 meters, and deep, greater than 150 meters, susceptible to, respectively, human contamination and seawater intrusion. That's kind of a neat detail. Seawater pushing in to the aquifer from the coast. Mahafaly Plateau covers approximately 8,000. Okay, that's different. The book said 9,000. 9,000, 8,000. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't really matter if it's 8 or 9. It's, you know what, huge. Giant slab of Eocene limestone like that, right? So that's it for the geology. That just gives you a real quick breakdown. Here's a picture of what I think is the Andoromina Cavern, one of the entrances here, one of the dole lines, right? And I think this must be the Mozambique Channel here. So we'd be looking kind of maybe northwest. And this is what it looks like. Not a very good picture, but it'll give you an idea. It kind of reminds me of, well, not really. There's this karst desert in Australia called the Nullarbor Plain, which has these big underwater and above water caves in it. It kind of looks like that, except this scrubby stuff. I don't think they have that in the Nullarbor. But as you can see, these things get big. These dolines get big. And this is a picture by Pierre Constant. This is one of the entrances. And as you can see, the water is right here. And people go down here into these things to get water, to fetch water, because it's basically like a desert on top, you know, just rolling, low relief, scrubby, pockmarked, right, with caves and all kinds of stuff. These are people right here for scale. Here's another one. This is from the inside looking out, and this, I believe, is Binabe Cave. You can see there's two people sitting right here, probably with some gear. Sizable entrances descending down into caves. The first video we're going to look at is footage from 2013. The video was posted on this channel, DR Local. Although it was posted in 2016, in the description it's saying it's 2013 footage of Patrick Widman and Philip Lehman went looking for caves in Madagascar. Initially, they thought at best there would be caves to dive, and at worst, well, there would be epic waves. So they went there looking for caves to dive. And, you know, if they couldn't find any, there's also good surfing apparently in Madagascar. There was a cavern video on YouTube of a cave called Aven that Ryan Dart posted. So at least there was one. No, so they basically went here. They had one actual cave they actually knew of, and they went there, and I guess they asked around, and they wound up going into several different caves, one of which really turned out to be a real banger, which is the one which featured the huge underwater passage we're going to watch after we watch this one. We're going to look at this map here, which is from a scientific paper, which we're not going to read the paper. We're just going to use the map that's on there. The name of this paper is Giant Subfossil Lemur Graveyard Discovered Submerged in Madagascar by Rosenberg, Godfrey, Muldoon, and Gunnell. And this talks about, obviously, you know, a giant, it sounds like something out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, a giant subfossil lemur graveyard. Subfossil means when the bones are only partially mineralized, and I think they're usually 10,000 or years less in age. They're not quite fossils. They're like becoming fossils. They call them subfossils. And they found lemur bones, lemur subfossils. And I think these guys actually helped with this in terms of going into these things and documenting what's going on in terms of the fossils. But what we're going to look at there is this very interesting map here. So again, here's Madagascar, and this is the area in question. The Mahafaly Plateau is right down here. And this is a map of the cave. There's Aven, Mitoho, these are other caves. But this is the one that we're going to show the video of right here. And from the entrance here, which we'll see in a second, to the end here is about 3/4 of a mile, right? Which is a long way to go into a cave underwater. This is an article entitled Madagascar Madness, okay, by Jake Bullman, photos by Philip Lehman, and also Patrick Vidman and Ryan Dart motoring through the first mega room after Ryan's chamber. So that picture is of the cave. I think Ryan's chamber, they said it's 200 meters wide, which is massive, right? And that's what it looks like when it first starts. So the entrance swim is a tediously frustrating one for rebreather divers. So they're going in there with rebreathers. I think initially they probably went in with just like side mount tanks. 20 minutes of low ceilings, bouncing from 66 feet to 16 feet and back several times, never allowing space to sit and trim, and no flow to remove any of the inevitable silt that came from passing with multiple scooter stages. So they're trying to go in here with all their gear, and it's up and it's down, and the flow is not strong, so it gets silty. It's just kind of uncomfortable. A pain in the ass, basically, is what they're describing. And this video is titled Madagascar Vacation Film. Again, this is by DR Local. And I think this one shows what they did in 2013, this initial trip. And then the follow-up one is the big one with the 3 going through this thing. So let's watch this one first. They have to rappel down into this thing. And yeah, they're using regular tanks in this one, because this is from 2013, and that's the entrance. And they have local guides. They have people coming in and help them, that bring Sherpas and whatnot. Let's go up to 1080 and see if that works. And the entrance to this cave, it looks like this. This is what they have to go through to get to the water. And they get into this thing, and this looks like, you know, a lot of caves might look either down in Florida or maybe in certain parts of France. Passage is not that big. I mean, relatively speaking. And they're just kind of finning through this thing with their side mounts. And there's a blind cavefish, and there's all kinds of like wild, the fauna stuff in this area is just crazy. Lemurs, giant lemurs, there was a species of crocodile that had horns. I think that you actually see that fossil or subfossil. See, there's the bones. And the question is, of course, well, how did lemur bones get into an underwater cave? That's a very good question. They could have washed in there, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe there's something else going on here. And it gets kind of low, right, in areas. Oh, there it is. Yep, that's it. That's the horned crocodile. And there's papers and pictures and whole articles on that if you want to go look at that, because that's a whole other sidebar there that's very, very interesting. And what are those things in the background? Those look like formations. That's another clue as to what might be going on here. Formations only form like that. Formations like that only form in air-filled caves, right? So you've got bones of land animals, subfossils of land animals, and you've got formations. So what does that mean? There's only one thing that can mean, right? And there's some formations there. And then eventually they get to a spot called Ryan's Chamber. And this is it. So they go down, they go through a bunch of various constrictions and stuff. I don't even think this video really shows that. But they're looking around and like, hey, this is a big room here. But they didn't have the big filming lights, although their lights are very bright nonetheless. Okay.
Patrick's still in the cave. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Literally, we were joking about like one day we're gonna find a cave that's so big that you don't even know what to do. That's exactly what happened. Like when I popped out there, I didn't even know what to do.
Both of them are kind of just like in shock. Again, you'll see why. This video, and I'm pretty sure this is Malazamanga Cave. And basically what he says is, you know, I can't believe what we just found. One of the issues with the entrance, though, and we'll go back to this article, Musings on Malazamanga, is they talk about having to go up and having to go down. And they come back, and this article is from 2023. The name of the main video is called Malazamanga Jaws of the Earth, I think it's called, right? That hum you hear, that's the sound of the scooters. Okay, so let's just read the description to this video. Again, this is DR Local, which I think is the channel of one of these guys, Philip Lehman, or perhaps Patrick Wood. I'm not really sure. In 2014, Philip Lehman and myself had been exploring caves in Madagascar for 3 weeks with little success. 3 days before leaving, I checked Malazamanga, which was last on our list, and emptied an exploration reel into the small but going cave. The end of the line was in a room right after a side mount restriction. It looked promising, and we had hoped the cave would still go. The next day, literally the day before we were scheduled to leave, we went back to Malazamanga, and on the way there, we were joking about finding one day a cave so big we did not even know what to do. And that's exactly what happened. This film was shot in June 2023 and captures the insane magnitude of what we discovered. And I'm sorry I'm jumping around. This, for whatever reasons, this episode has been very hard for me to put together, not only with the research and losing links, but I spent almost the entire day trying to deal with a technical issue, my computer having to do with the drivers, and I'm still kind of working on it, and it's been incredibly frustrating. So I'm sorry. At this point, I'm a little bit like, blah, my mind's kind of not really altogether there. To go back, the entrance swim is a tediously frustrating one for rebreathers. So they went back in 2023. They weren't using tanks. They were using rebreathers, which gives you more bottom time. And there's no bubbles. And you don't have to bring as many tanks, you know, because some of these cave dives, when you get really, really far back, you have to go stage all of these tanks. If you're using compressed stuff, right, you know, regular scuba tanks, you got to just bring in more and more of these tanks. It gets to a point where it just becomes too much. So a lot of these cave divers, when they do these deep dives and long dives, they just go with the rebreathers. So this footage you're going to see here is of them going through the entrance series, right? Patrick and I went to the deep section right away, which is 138 to 164 feet, and spent 3 days trying to find a way on, while Philip and Ryan Dart looked around the shallower parts of the cave, 66 to 100 feet, for any leads that had not been checked. Patrick laid line while I surveyed behind him through a wide but low space that became swirly silt and clay by the third tie-off. And the reason I'm showing this one is just because I want people to see what they had to go through in order to kind of suss this thing out and get back into it.
Put your right.
And this is what it looked like. This is what sections of the entrance series look like.
Put your right.
And you notice there's no bubbles, and they're talking. You can understand what they're saying, because number one, there's no bubbles, and number two, the mouthpiece kind of reverberates. And it's weird, you know. If you're used to watching videos of people doing regular scuba, whether it's in a cave or not, you get used to hearing the bubbles. There's no bubbles. And I think some of the divers really like that because it's just quiet, maybe more peaceful, and you can communicate with people. And that's his reel. That's what they use to tie off to make sure they can get back. They know they can get back out. And that's what he's doing here. He's looking for a place to tie off. And then down here, you can see, I think that's where they wind up going. I mean, it looks like Swiss cheese. It's low. They're trying to get through there. Yeah. Patrick was the next one in, leaving a tank on the line with me this time, and he extended the line down the slope on the other side. I heard rocks falling, tanks banging on the rock, grunting, laughing, and then he returned with his hands shaking like crazy. Whatever was there was not for the faint of heart, it seemed. After a bit of cooling down, he went back into the cloud, which was followed by loud yelling. Excited yelling, we exited and planned our return for the next day. What lay beyond the 20-foot deep vertical awkward tank off restriction was an open space that continued downwards to appear to be, 40 plus meters. So they found their way through all this stuff in the beginning, and they were going to come back the next day, which is exactly what they did. This is a photo of the entrance. So you come down from this side, you go down, and you can see water here, right? We scoured every corner of the section we were in until a hole underneath the formation showed a large room on the other side. I tied in at 130 feet, headed down the slope to where the floor met the wall, removed my tank, locked the reel, threw it through the hole, and headed in. They had to remove gear, push it in front of them to get through the constriction, and then put it back on, okay? That takes an enormous amount of level-headedness, okay? When you think about the environment these guys are in, you have to have complete control of your nerves, of your mind. You have to, technically, you have to know what's going on. I mean, it's frightening, the level of, like, you got to be right there in the moment, right? It's truly amazing. And if you remember before, the images they had where they had the light, but it wasn't that bright. And I think on this dive, they each had 10,000 lumen lights, really good for filming. But even with 30,000 lumens, which is an enormous number of lumens, it was still kind of swallowed up in places, which goes to show you how big this thing really was, or is. And this is what they get into. Here, Jake Bowman, Ryan Dart, Philip Lehman, that was the guy in earlier that we saw, and Patrick Vidman. So there's 4 of them. One of them is filming. And remember that map I showed you, the yellow lines, right? That's the cave they're in right now. That's what they're going through. And to get all this stuff up here, right? They have to hire all those porters or all those Sherpas, right? Or the guides. You see how many people they had to get just to get their stuff up here, just to make a dive like this happen. The planning, the effort, the mental effort, the physical effort is enormous. But they really paid off for these guys, because the stuff they found, as you'll see as we watch this video, is otherworldly and mind-blowing, to say the least. Look at that. I mean, what are the ceiling heights there? And you see up there, when they shine their lights up, you can start to see the walls, some of the texture in the walls there, on the upper part there. They're coming up over this rock, and they just did such an amazing job with the footage. And they're scootering. For those of you who don't know anything about cave diving, when they get into these monster caves, it just makes more sense to go in a scooter. That way they don't have to exert themselves. It's easier, safer, really. I'm sure it makes for a more pleasant dive where they're just flying through. And the visibility is so good, it's like they're floating in air. And remember, these are, each one is a 10,000 lumen light. I'm going to say that the person filming did not have one. Although I don't know, it's hard to tell. But they need all 30,000 lumens just to light this thing up. And you can see those formations over there. So once again, as we seem to encounter a lot in these videos, the fact that during the last ice age, whenever the level of the ocean all over Earth was 300 to 400 feet lower than it is. So these would have been enormous, basically like enormous river passages, I would imagine, 30,000 years ago when the oceans were very, very low. And you had formations, right? It's like the caves in the Yucatan that have these amazing formations. They only form in an air-filled cave. And this is a pretty big passage even for an air-filled cave. It used to be above water. And the color, the color of the water and the texture of the walls. And you see the formations in the middle. They come upon this one formation. I guess they named it Megatron, which is a huge column just coming down from the ceiling. And they would be heading, I guess, kind of in a southwestern direction towards the coast, in the direction of Mozambique here. There, you see the formations there? This would be a cool cave to go in, even if it didn't have, if it wasn't underwater. The fact that it is makes it that much more interesting. Okay. They're just zipping around. See how they're tied into their scooters there? And you can see their line over there. And you can see how bright these lights are when you get up close. Now that layer there, I think that is some type of mixing zone. I don't know if it's a thermocline or a halocline. The caves in Mexico, in areas, the salt water intrudes, right? From the Gulf of Mexico into those caves in the Yucatan, and you get spots where the fresh water sits on top of the salt water because the salt water is less dense, right? Oh no, salt water is more dense, so it's going to be on the bottom, and then you get that zone. It's like a really sharp, and you go through it, and when you're in that zone, things get hazy and like it's this weird. It's almost like Vaseline on glass. I don't know if that's what's going on here, but you can see the color changes. The color of the water is different here. And here you can see it. Unless that color change is just in the actual limestone itself. That's a good question. I don't know. But there was a layer there. You could see in the water. So maybe they just went dip below that layer and boom, it gets blue again. So that's a good question. I don't know what the answer to that is. I'll have to do some more research. I think the whole cave has, what, 6-7 kilometers of passage? There are big cave passages, underwater cave passages like this elsewhere. I think out in the Nullarbor there is stuff that's this size. Down in Florida, Wakula Springs, which is one of the big springs down there in the Florida Panhandle. They have some really large passage there. And then in Weeki Wachee Springs, where they have the that are famous for the mermaid shows, they got down into that within, I think, the last 10 or maybe 20 years. They were able to get down in there, and there are some extremely large passages in that system too. Now here, I don't know if this is at the end of the cave or at the beginning. I'm not sure. I mean, there it is. Look at that. Look at that. And that might be that formation they're calling Megatron. And they have to go around it. Takes up the whole middle of this giant passage. Again, Jake Bowman, Ryan Dart, Philip Lehman, Patrick Vidman. Philip Lehman was the guy. He was the guy in the video we saw before. Yeah. Wow. And there are other clips of that and other videos. I think other people have been in there. Other than them, there are, there's these groups that do expeditions all around the world. And, They post their videos and stuff and pics and stuff. And I think other people have been, although I don't know. That team might have been the only team that's actually been back to the end of that specific cave. But if you want to learn more about it in general, about the area that it's in, I will leave a link. As always, the links will be in the description. X-Ray Magazine, issue 57, Pierre Constant, he wrote this article and did all the pics here. There's the babao tree. It's a very famous type of tree there. It's what the coast looks like, right? It's the coast. Here's the entrance. This is the entrance to Binabe Cave, right? There's another shot of the coast. This is Andakatomivola Cave. Again, I'm probably massacring the pronunciations. This one is a rappel. I think it's like a 66-meter rappel. This is the Aven sinkhole, and they have found other big caves, lots of decorations underwater in this area. So there's other stuff. There are other caves going on. This is the entrance to Binabe Cave here. I think that's the one we showed before. This picture here is looking out from underneath. So these guys here might be these guys right there. So that's kind of neat. That gives you kind of a cool view above and below the water. This one here, I'm not sure which one this is. And there's lemurs. There are lemurs on on Madagascar. I think there's like 10 different kinds of lemurs. You know, it's insane the way they jump around. Here's a Vitani sinkhole. All right, it's another cave in the area. More subfossils. Let's see what this is. This is the Andramanoatse sinkhole here. And again, we showed that before, and that's a typical shot of what this is probably what most of the Mahafaly. Sorry, the pronunciations are really getting me, really working me. The Mahafaly plateau, right? That's kind of probably what a lot of it looks like. And that would be, I guess, the Indian Ocean there. Then we got some lemurs, some maki lemurs, right? And here are some of the bones of these lemurs. There's another shot of the coast. And there you go. And there, right here, boom, that little square, that's where we were. So I'll leave a link to this PDF if you want to read about it and learn about it and get more in depth with it. I was trying to keep it short and sweet and simple today because, like I said before, I get into the research and it just becomes too much. I'm figuring out how to do this and how to do it more effectively. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think of that cave? Amazing. Mind-blowing. Size, the volume. 9,000 or somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 square kilometers of karst in this one spot. And that's just one spot out of what the books say, five or six distinct karst regions in Madagascar, a total of, what did they say, 32,000 square kilometers of karst. I mean, like, tell me that there's going to be a lot more stuff there to be discovered. And I think that's a cool kind of thing to think about when you watch something like that, is that, you know, they went into this thing back in 2013 and first found it back then. Yeah, and that was what, 13 years ago? It wasn't that long ago. There's still stuff left to be found. There's still things to be explored. People say, oh, it's all been done. There's nothing else. We checked out the whole world. No. We have not. No, the Earth is not all explored. Those guys proved it. And people are finding caves, perhaps not like quite like that, but people are finding new caves all the time. The oceans, the deep oceans, right? What, 5% have been actually, I think 10% have been mapped, but only 5% have been even remotely looked at. The vast majority of it, nobody's actually set eyes on it ever. So I guess that's one of the good takeaways from a video like this, is that, you know, there's still lots to be discovered, even on our planet. That's not even to talk about the other planets, right? And again, Nasan, N-A-S-N, great drone footage. Go check out those channels. So go check out all those channels And go subscribe to the DR local channel, because again, I think that is one of those guys that were in I think that's one of their channels. So go subscribe to that, because whenever they do new stuff, I think they post videos there. And there's those funky trees, right? So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe and ring my bell. Follow me on all the platforms, and go check out all the links that I post in the description. This is Brett for Topo Ranger, and I'll see everyone in the next episode.